Welcome to episode 12 of the Bodcast. This is the final episode of season 4. How crazy is that? Yeah. And we are going to be talking all about training and nutrition during Ramadan, as that is starting tomorrow. So we thought that might be very useful for some of the listeners. So we're going to sort of give a general outline of kind of what we would do and then get into some questions. So I think let's dive right into it.
Yeah, let me just looking for the questions.
I've got them, don't worry.
Yeah, Claire's the organised one. She's got all the questions already.
Yeah, I'm getting to them now.
Well, I wasn't so organised today because we've just been eating a lot of croissant.
Right.
Croissant. This is French, huh? Croissant.
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 Yeah, they are.
So we had a delicious brunch, but we've got some really good questions. So thanks so much to everybody who sent those in. And hopefully, we always release on Sunday, so hopefully you'll have enough time to listen to it, and hopefully we've answered it thoroughly so that you can then plan for Ramadan. And we were just talking before we came on air that we just go through kind of how we would approach it as essentially, yes, it's fasting, but it's a form of intermittent fasting. And so that never lends itself well to trying to build muscle or, generally be in a bulk. I think really hard to eat that much food in such a limited time, and B, just not good for, muscle synthesis, because you're not able to sort of spread out your protein intake. You're kind of, unless you're going to stay up all night, which I hear some bodybuilders do, which I would like to hear more about that. But yes.
It's just then you're limiting your recovery. It's catch-22 unless you're super. I always wonder. I actually think the top level bodybuilders just don't fast during Ramadan. Maybe very few exceptions like Rami and some really maybe Hardy because he's in Iran, but I think generally speaking, I think if you're a professional bodybuilder, I don't see how Ramadan can work for you, because especially if you're in bulk, maybe if you're in prep, because it's just recovery would be so damaged.
Yeah, but it's crazy. I'll get some of the podcast of some of the ones who've fasted, like they just changed their night into day. Even I think Fuad spoke on it, on how he did one prep and he just sort of, but that's after he turned pro, where, it's your job. So he'd sleep during the day and then train in the evening after opening, and then have his meals, like throughout the night. But I guess
that's the thing. If you don't have a job, you can make it a night shift. Become a shift worker.
Yeah, true. Unless you really work night shift or it is your job, it can be hard.
Yeah, and that's bodybuilding is your profession.
Yeah,
and it's there's always times where your fitness, your nutrition take the backseat. Ramadan is, you're focusing on your religion, and it's all about
spirituality.
It's self-reflection. So that's what it's about, and you can still be aware and conscious and try as best you can to work with your fitness and nutrition goals, but they're probably not what you're ultimately focusing on. And then that's what this episode is about, on how you can still maintain your muscle, and how you can eat to do that, and hopefully to take the stress out of thinking about all of that for you. And also, it is a bit of stress on the body, like Andy just said, with the recovery. So if you are being, very conscious of how you train and how you eat, hopefully it'll just make it a bit easier as well.
To a certain extent, the whole purpose of Ramadan is to suffer a little bit. Mm-hmm. My ex-wife's family are Muslim, and that's a big thing. It's like, you're suffering during the day, and that gives you sort of that thinking of spirituality. And, unlike if you slept all day, you're not, it's kind of outside of the realms of what Ramadan's meant to be. And, so
True.
Yeah, I remember being in the police, and we had some guys who were Muslim and would do Ramadan, and it was hard for them, as in like, running around trying to arrest people and handcuff people that are fighting when you've got no calories inside you. You've just been sipping water all day. They were, and even some people I don't think even do water.
Yeah.
Sort of,
No,
so,
Yeah, no, it's, and oh, I just lost my train of thought. But everything that we've talked about in all the seasons, you need to remember it. And some people actually put on weight during Ramadan. It doesn't mean because you don't eat all
a lot of people do.
that you can't, put on weight. If you exceed your calories, well, not exceed, but if you tip your calories in the whole energy balance equation, you can put on weight. So, just because you're fasting all day, it doesn't mean all those laws of, energy balance get thrown out the window. So I think
I've met people, it works both ways. I've seen people lose weight during Ramadan. I've seen people pile it on because of food choices. As soon as they can eat, they go mental with like the worst food, the most nutrient dense food you've ever seen. In a very short window, we're just cramming it down. And they'd be surprised you can cram down 3,000 calories quite quickly when, it's a wrong choice, of food for health, Yeah,
because I guess you're trying to eat, say, you have a normal job, so you sleep between 9, 10, you've just opened, broken fast, and you're trying to eat as much as you can in 3-4 hours. It almost ends up becoming a binge fest.
Yeah,
because
it is often, and you're not moving around.
No,
you're not moving around because evening, and you've been saving yourself during the day, so you limit your movements during the day because you're not eating. Then it becomes late, and your days are just, you're sitting around with family, friends, whatever it may be, eating. You're not going out walking, so you're not actually using as many calories as if you were eating, moving around during the day. So it is. I think it's a tricky tightrope for a lot of people, like controlling what they eat but enjoying it, because it is like about families coming together in the evening, eating together, often friends eating together, of an evening. It's like we fast all day, let's get together and have something tonight. And I understand that aspect of it, but I do think it's a tricky balancing act for a lot of people who want to get into good shape at the same time.
That's what we were discussing earlier. We're like, with the COVID restrictions, though, will it be like a month of bonding between families and friends, or it seems like it'll be more, just your little bubble, have your meals, do your prayer, and you're done. So it might be a different Ramadan for a lot of people all over the world.
Well, even last year. I think it was more strict last year in terms of...
Yeah, I think like generally, maybe less so I'm trying to think, for Kenya, much we're in lockdown again. So, but for other places, I think there's a bit more freedom. So I do think, generally speaking, COVID I do think may help people not feel like they've got to go to a sort of a family meal or go visit friends to break fast, when they could actually just do it at home and be more selective with the food choices.
Yeah. And I think overall, maintenance is a great place to be during Ramadan.
That's why.
And because bulking, it will be extremely hard to have the energy in the day to put everything into your session, to actually stimulate building muscle. And like I said, eating all that food. And the same goes if you want to be in a deficit, to try and maintain your muscle mass will be quite hard. If you're also in a deficit. So I think maintenance is a great place to be, and I think easier.
And it's a chance to probably deload a little bit. Like, your training sessions don't have to be crazy. Maintenance volume is a lot less. You can survive a lot less intensity, a lot less volume, a lot less weight just to maintain muscle. So, because you're not going to go in fully charged for your sessions. You're not going to have, your everything balanced. Often, unless you're training after breaking fast in the middle of the night, often your training's going to be poorly fed. And all my programs are built for training performance.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, our number one priority is training performance. Well, in a fast, you can't prioritize training. You're fasting for different reasons. So I would take that as an opportunity to have some time, take some time back, just do some maintenance, maybe get rid of some niggles.
Yeah.
Eat at maintenance, enjoy the time, enjoy that family time, and then, enjoy time with friends, but just be mindful of what you're doing.
Yeah. It's not a good time to be worrying about your weight and your training, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize, Andy just said, that you can maintain, your muscle on, quite a lot less than you think. And a lot of people who are trying to lose muscle, it can be harder than you'd expect it to. So, you're not going to lose it all. And even if you do lose some muscle mass, it does come back relatively quickly if you are, if you have been training before. So it's not something that you should be scared about losing all your gains. There are more important things than that, and they do come back. Muscle memory is a thing.
But it's crazy though. It takes, I'm sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I discussed this last. I think there must be a delay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's a bit like when we first went into COVID. People were worried about the gains, and actually all it is you're just losing a little bit of pump in your arms, a little less volume. The muscle fibers aren't disappearing on you. They're still there. So when you add everything back in, they're just naturally, your muscles swell back up. So, people overly worry about losing their gains. Unless you're I think I said this last year, unless you're in a coma, your nutrition's really bad, it takes a little bit of time, unless you're a really big muscular person, to lose muscle volume.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know a lot of the questions that we've been asked sort of center around when is the best time to train.
Yeah.
So maybe we can just go over that sort of more generally. And, there's never there's no scientifically proven best time to train. But like Andy said, it's all about your performance in the session. But then you've got to think about your recovery. So if you're training late at night, some people get so hyped up on that, they're not going to sleep. So, if that's you, then a late night training session is probably not the best thing. So it'll depend on so many factors of your lifestyle, or when is best to train for you.
As we said, if it's a case of treating it like you're a shift worker and staying up all night, then you program your training in like normal after a couple of meals or whatever, where you can. If not, and you're going to sleep after eating, maybe because you're eating a lot in a small window, train first thing, because your muscles should be glycogen fed. You're not going to lose all that overnight, and just train first thing in the morning, and just make sure though you hydrate first, because, likelihood of injuries increases when you're dehydrated. So,
and then I guess when you wake up in the morning, there's the one meal before they close, I think, before fasting begins. So that could work, because you wake up, feed, you're going into a session that's not super intense, because you still have, I guess, a whole day to survive through, with work and everything. So I would say morning after your fast meal would be a good time.
Yeah, I mean that's when I would train. I can't train at night. I think I would just,
that'd be wired the whole night.
Yeah. And that the hydration one is hard, because if you're not drinking throughout the day, and you're trying to sleep at night, but you don't want to be sort of glugging 5 liters at one point, in one sitting. That is quite tricky to spread that out. So
yeah, it may mean just getting up earlier.
Yeah.
It's just a case of getting up earlier before daybreak, having a meal, having more fluid than you probably normally would. Trying maybe a couple of liters, 1 liter before eating, liter after eating. Yeah, you're gonna feel you're not gonna feel necessarily best, but then give it an hour, 2 hours, whatever it may be, probably 2 hours, then train. Then it will settle. I mean, you should be hydrated and fed. So first thing in the morning. Just after daybreak.
Yeah, and if you're not a morning person and that just doesn't fit into your work or whatever, you can. I think probably the next best thing would be to train after you've broken your fast in the evening. Eat a good
a late evening session.
Like Andy said, just do the exact same thing, but in the evening, and then wait an hour, let everything digest, and then train. And then you could probably get in a sneaky post-training meal, and then try and get to sleep. So I think those are probably your 2 best options. And just being mindful of what you can recover from. Really mindful of that. Especially as it goes on. Your first week you might be okay, and then you might find that you're just not recovering as well. So that's a good, just monitor it, and then you can know when to just take things down a notch.
I'd even reduce the training days from, if you do 5, try 3 with maybe rest in between. Just see how that works first, or even go down to 4. And just monitor and see how you recover first week, and then you'll be able to tell what volume works for you.
Yeah, now it's not the time for plyometrics and like hardcore cardio. No.
It's a bit like the advice we give for Christmas. You got to enjoy that time as well. If you're not a professional, you don't have a competition, you're not trying to be a bodybuilder, you're just a general population type person who just wants to look good. Look, enjoy that time. Like I say, for people on special occasions of Christmas, I know it's a protracted period of time, therefore be a bit more mindful. But actually, don't beat yourself up over it. Just be sensible, but enjoy it at the same time, because it's a good time to take a bit of a mental break from, pushing yourself really hard.
Yeah, I think so. I think that leads quite nicely into a question that I just got. Let me read it out. So, what are the podcast team's opinion on a complete non-training Ramadan? Perhaps a little bit of mobility every day, but that's the only activity, calories to maintenance, and trying to meet protein. How much of your gains do you lose, and how hard to start again after Ramadan? I really like that question, because it sort of encapsulates some of the key points in that, if you don't want to train, you don't have to. And it is a good time to focus on things like mobility that you normally, maybe don't do. And I mean, mobility is a wonderful thing to do, because I think some people think it's really easy, but it's, if you do a full-on mobility session, it's pretty tough. But not in a draining kind of way. You'll recover from it. So I think absolutely you can do a non-training Ramadan, and for sure focus on trying to hit your protein. And yes, you will lose gains, especially a month. If you do 4 weeks of not doing any kind of weight resistance training, yes, you will lose gains, but like we said, they will come back within 2 or 3 weeks of getting back to your normal routine. So I
suppose it also comes down to what your goal is, because If your goal is just to be healthy, fit and healthy, there's no problem with taking it as time off. I would say if you've got aspirations to build muscle, yes, you can take it as time off, but you are going to lose a little bit. It's not going to be ideal over a month. Although, you don't need to necessarily do gym work. Press ups and body weight exercises will maintain a lot of stuff, especially if you factor in a bit of time under tension. Stretching helps maintain muscle mass. Well, not muscle mass, but maintain the actual muscle fibers. You're going to always lose a bit of mass due to cell swelling's gone. Fluid and blood retention's gone out of the muscle a little bit. So, it's catch 22. It's all down to personal goals. If you need a break, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you need a break, you feel you need to take a month off, take a month off. Simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. And if your goal is if you don't want to lose all your gains, I would add into the mobility some body weight sessions as well with the mobility. Even just 3 times a week, you'll still be able to maintain a bit more of your muscle mass than if you just do mobility. But yeah, if you're not bothered about that, then just do mobility. Get in some steps, just get in some movement. That's always good. And flexibility, and do try and hit the protein, which I think that is, well, as always, one of the hardest macros to hit. And I think for anyone during this time, especially if you are trying to maintain, you're going to need to hit your protein.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking that as an option, I think I would go
mobility.
Yeah, just taking a whole month off. I've done a fast once with friends for a week, and it totally destroyed me because I'd never done it. So it was, try it out, see what this Ramadan thing is like. And I did a week. Back then, it's still where we didn't have, I didn't listen to podcasts like this. So you go into the gym thinking, it's just a fast. I'm going to train hard. So after a few days, I was out. So I'm thinking if you're one of the people who, you can't really slow down when it comes to training, or you've been training hard and you just haven't had time to have a break, a 1 month, it would be nice. Take 1 month, just work on your movement, get your steps in, reconnect with yourself. Just maybe that 1 month when you come back. And for me personally, I don't know about people, but sometimes when I take a break and I come back, I'm psyched. I'm like, I've missed this. I'm ready for it. So
which is so nice to feel that. And again, I think I can't remember the name of the study, but the kind of when you take a break, your muscles become a bit more sensitive, to stimulus again. So I mean, you could also do you could train for 2 weeks and then the final 2 weeks take off. There's so many options that you can do there. But generally, I would say if you're going to take your, anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks off, you will lose your muscle mass. Some of it. It's inevitable. You will lose that and strength, but it's not like it's gone forever. Muscle memory is a thing, and you will, and it will come back, and it will come back quicker.
Yeah, when you hit that first workout and that pump flows in, and you're like,
it'll take a couple of weeks, but you will get back.
So I think you touched on an important point. Protein. Protein is muscle sparing. A lot of things I would do is include protein modified fasting. I do this myself if I've got a special occasion in the evening, someone's birthday or something, and we're going for a meal. My first meal, like my other meals, will be protein modified. So it'll be mainly protein, very little carbs on the meal, because I know we have more carbs there. So your meal to break fast should probably be a high protein, low carb meal. Get maximum amount of protein in, because your latter meals, if they're more sort of enjoyable type meals, will have a higher carb level and probably a lot lower protein. I remember I was stuck in Mogadishu for Ramadan in 2011, and it was over sort of my birthday period. It was August, and I was there for weeks, and all we ate every night was mandazis and samosas, because that's all that was provided to us. We couldn't leave where I was because Al Shabaab were trying to shoot us, so we were kind of hiding. But we managed to get some goats on my birthday, and we slaughtered the goats. That was nice. And we just had goat meat for one meal. But it was one of those things where it is a lot of that for a lot of people, like buffet type party food, where a family get around the table and there's little bits of everything. So it is a lot less protein to carb ratio. So if you can give yourself a meal before that of a high protein meal with low carb, you'll be doing yourself a big favor.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, I was going to say this is where I guess protein supplement comes in handy too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, just from also the point of view that I think you're most likely to binge after that day of fasting, and protein is very satiating.
Yeah.
So whilst the temptation might be to go straight to something sweet and high carb, if you can make that choice to go for a high protein meal, I think it will do you good in so many ways. You'll probably be less likely to binge, and you're getting your protein. And like Leon said, probably that's where a protein supplement can come in really quickly. You want something just quickly, like, even before you maybe sit with your family, you can just have a quick protein shake.
Mm-hmm.
That's really simple, and you're getting hydrated at the same time.
Oh yeah.
So I think that's a really key point, is to try and break your fast with a high protein meal, and then get in your carbs and fats later. And I'm sure that it just goes around, like bodybuilders, they've got to eat 20 grams of protein every 3 or 4 hours, otherwise you'll lose all your muscle. That's just not well, A, you don't need to do that, but B, that's not going to be possible for you. But also, you don't want to eat all your protein in one meal. That's also not going to be ideal.
No.
So at least if you break your fast with like a good 30 to 40 grams, you're well on your way of hitting your protein.
I would probably do what Leon suggested: break fast, protein shake, then have a higher protein meal, and then have the fun food. And before bed, probably guzzle another protein shake just before I go to bed, because that's hydration for sleep. I always drink, try to drink at least water before I go to bed. 500 ml. It does mean sometimes I get up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet, but it does mean I'm hydrated through the night. Hello?
Sorry. Yeah, you cut off a bit.
You cut off.
Break.
Yeah, but you're saying you drink a liter of water before you go to bed. You might have to wake up to pee, but that's okay.
Yeah, because I also, when I started with JP, same thing, before bed.
Yeah, but you need to be hydrated. You should be hydrated during sleep.
Yeah, because I had my protein before sleep. So it was like 30, 40 minutes before sleep. So I'd have just protein feeds with water, not milk or anything. So I think that would work very well for most people. Because I mean, say a scoop of protein, say you're getting about 25 grams. So even if you have let's say at the minimum, you're having a scoop when you open your fast, and a scoop before you sleep, that's already 50. So you could be well on your way to meet at least your minimum protein goals for the day.
Yeah,
by the time
there's a good protein question here. Yeah. So is casein protein overrated, and would a whey isolate do well for the pre-dawn meal right before you start fasting?
Yeah,
I think whey protein is more bioavailable. Well,
yeah, sorry, I'll just repeat that. Yeah, the whey isolate is more bioavailable. That's generally what we all use. I've personally never used casein.
I've used I used to use it before bed, but it is a heavier. It just feels it's a heavier sort of protein. You go to bed feeling quite very full, and it is a slow digesting protein. So I guess if you're to get it, you have to be at the nighttime, so it just digests slowly as you go to bed, I guess.
For the like your pre-dawn meal, I think a whey
Whey,
isolate
yeah, that's
is
fine.
better. And I think you've got to be a bit careful, like how much protein you're going to be, like
Yeah.
powder you're going to be eating. Like, I can't take more than 2 scoops, and then my stomach's just like no. And isolate, you'll generally be you'll be okay, even if you are a bit lactose intolerant, because
problem with casein, a lot of people have problem with casein protein because it's harder to digest, and for a lot of people, what it can it can interrupt sleep. Actually, everyone used to say have casein before bed and it be used overnight, but actually it's a lot, because it is slow to digest. You've got a constant process of digestion overnight, and that can affect people's sleep. It's not necessarily ideal.
Yeah, so
I don't think.
Stick to the isolate, and I wouldn't go over 3 scoops myself. So maybe you stick to one to break your fast, maybe the one before bed, and if you need one
That's it.
in the morning, but before you start fasting. Right, let's see what else we got. Well, we answered this one. Is it best to cut, maintain, or bulk? So we've all pretty much said maintain. Okay. Oh, and I think we've answered this one. When fasting for 13 hours, what time would you train? Keeping in mind gyms are closed at night with curfew. Yeah, I forgot about that. So
morning.
well, yeah.
The morning option.
The morning option. Yeah, I forgot about that. Because ours is at home. We're lucky. But yeah, if you are going to a gym, I guess.
Yeah, I think we.
Yeah, certainly. I would say that you can train just before you break fast, but you're gonna have to realize your training session won't be great. You should probably do, if you're just going to train light or do something like with mobility stretching or do a very light session, you can do it before you break fast and then eat shortly after.
Yeah.
But if you're planning on training properly, probably best first thing in the morning and try and wake up and just get it done.
Okay, and I think we've answered this one as well. In a lot of Muslim households, they make a lot of oily foods to break the fast, like samosas. What foods would you advise to break the fast with? So I think we covered that the oily foods like samosas and mandazi are not the best option at all. They are high in fat and carb and like minimal protein. And
you get fed up with them really quickly. I still haven't eaten a mandazi since. Honestly, I just can't. It gives me flashbacks. Samosas are fine, but
mandazi
flashbacks.
Yeah, you overdid the mandazi, man.
Oh man, it's terrible. Honestly.
I mean, not saying you shouldn't have them, but make sure. I mean, if you've been watching me recently, all I've been going on about is balanced meals, and do that first. Get in your more wholesome foods, and then if you want one mandazi, a samosa, have it. But just be mindful and get in the what your body needs first before what you want.
It's a bit like when you feed children, and when you've got kids, you always say eat your vegetables first because it's the best bit, it's the important bit, and then you're like eat that bit of chicken, and then you got to plan your day almost like that. Have your nutritious food before you have the fun food.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I treat myself, Andy. Like yesterday, he's like, there should be more vegetables on your plate. I'm like,
I know. I was like 2 pieces of broccoli and it's not a portion of vegetables. Yeah.
It's the same. I'm like, eat those first, then you can have the rest. I treat myself like a child sometimes. No, I think that's a very good point. Okay, what do we have? That's nothing to do with Ramadan.
No,
drink alcohol. Oh, okay, sorry. I think we've answered. I think we've answered.
I'm sure we've talked about
How
it before.
come train? What should you eat the most? What should you eat the most? Well, protein. Get your protein. Well, I did.
Protein, prioritize
I
Get your
think we did
protein
answer
in.
that.
Oh, well, this is a good one, and we've kind of touched on it. If I'm fasting, will taking my protein in one meal still work for maintaining muscle? Not ideal. No. So, I mean, gosh, that would be a lot of protein. What would you'd be eating a whole goat? No, well, not a whole goat, but you'd be eating a lot.
Like a constant 1 hour you're eating for, just going for an hour.
You'd be
so yeah. It's one of those things where, I've used the analogy before in this podcast. It's like building a house.
Yeah.
You need a steady supply of bricks. You can't just dump all the bricks down on the ground and expect the builders, it gets overwhelming. So, and it's going to affect your digestion. As you said, protein's satiating. You start having more than 50 grams of protein in a meal. It takes you a long time to eat that meal. You get full and you can't eat anything else. So, it's not ideal. It's, if it's the only option you got, it's the only option. But it's a bit like when people haven't had enough protein during the day and we try to backload at the end.
Yeah.
The last meal we realize they haven't hit their protein goals. We throw it in. It's not going to be as good for your digestion. It's not going to be available. You can only process so much protein in any one digestive sitting, what your body needs. And you got to think, protein, any excess calorie will be stored as fat if it's excessive. You got to understand, it doesn't matter if it's protein, carb, anything else. If you like protein, excessive protein will turn to carbohydrate first by neoglucogenesis. So you have too much protein, it get turned to carb. It's not an ideal way. So it's about balancing. It's having enough protein, but not too much.
Yeah, and so it might take more planning and preparing than you're used to. But if you do plan, you can spread out your protein a little bit. Like if you're breaking your fast with a protein shake, that's 25 grams right there. If you have another meal an hour or so after that, with 30 to 40, and then one final one of, again, that protein shake, 25, 30, and then another high protein meal in the morning. I think you'll easily hit your protein goals, and you've spread them out a bit more.
I think even one key part exactly is just what Clea said, which will help, I think, a lot of people in during Ramadan is planning, like what she's just said. Like if you can, just plan your day from when you're
plan your night.
like when you're breaking fast to when you're going to sleep to your morning, your closing. So just use the first few days to just understand what meals you'll be having during Ramadan, and then make a plan. Just have your plan where you start your shake, where 30 minutes after you're eating this, an hour later maybe this, finish the shake. And I feel like that will help a lot of people rather than just go through the day like, oh, fast, what's been cooked.
Have no plan.
Yeah, mandazi, whatever, samosa. But what she said is if you can plan those 4 weeks, I think it'll be.
Here's the thing. I've just looked it up.
Yeah.
Sunrise is 6:30 a.m., 6:32 tomorrow, and sunset's 6:37 p.m. So you've got basically 12 hours of not eating. So if you get up a little bit earlier than you used to, maybe a 4:30 wake up, you can have that protein shake. You can get a good meal in before you have to start fasting. Have a shake ready for 6:37 p.m. Have that shake ready, mix it up, have it on the side, look at your watch, sunset, 6:37, shake down you, then it's done. And then, you've got so many hours before bed. Plan out your hours before bed, what time you're going to go to sleep, be it 10 p.m., 9 p.m. And then have something planned for 2 hours after, hour after that for a main meal, then 2 hours after that for another meal. I mean, you're gonna get like, you could probably get in at least 4 meals, I reckon, not including the shakes. If you include the shakes, you can still get 6 meals in.
Yeah, and good, good quality food, and I think you'll be good. And just
Sorry, no, I was saying you'll find you're binging less on your mandazis and samosas that way.
A client and friend made a point that she said that as Ramadan goes on, she just gets less and less hungry, and I think that can be quite common. Your whole kind of circadian rhythm is going to be thrown off, because I know there's often prayers early in the morning as well. So and some there are prayers all night, certain days. So I think your whole body is going to be a bit thrown off, and your hunger hormones and everything as well might be a bit thrown off. And everyone reacts a bit differently. Some are more hungry. Other people just, they're not hungry. So I think the key thing is just to try and stick, make your plan now before you start fasting. And, if your goal is to maintain, try and stick to the meals that you've planned out for yourself. And you probably might, I've never done it, but I doubt I would be hungry at, if you've eaten quite like 2 or 3 meals sort of back to back before you go to bed. It's not ideal, and you might have to force yourself to have that last protein shake or whatever it is. But like Andy said right at the beginning, it's all about your goals, and if your goal is to maintain, then that's what you will have to do.
Yeah, I think if you're like me, the problem is I can go the whole day without eating quite easy. I got used to it in working for the government. You'd get busy with a task and you just don't eat, but as soon as I do start eating, it's like I'm the hungriest man alive, and I can eat everything. So it's not ideal to for me to fast a period, because I'm fine, suddenly gonna eat, I'm gonna eat everything. So that's why I personally would always wake up, have that shake, try and get some food in me early, so I'm not just then getting into this sort of I'm gonna binge at night. I've got a set plan. I know what's going to happen at what time. A bit like now, I have to, if I'm busy, I have to look at the time and go, right, actually, I need to get a meal in now, because otherwise won't think about food for a while. So I have to be quite scheduled even now. I know roughly what time my meal times are, and no matter what, I force myself to eat them.
Yeah, I mean, like that's come up a lot, the word planning. So I think take note of that, because I don't think you can't really rely on your hunger and satiety signals too much. When you've fasted all day like that, they can go pretty crazy. So just having a plan and sticking to it, your body generally does like routine. And if you do that throughout the whole month, your body will adapt to that and get used to it. And I just think it'd be so good, rather than feeling you've got a binge on sort of oily and sweet foods, and then you'll probably feel a bit sick, and then that just starts you off on kind of just in a sort of, it can turn into a negative cycle, and then you kind of just get out of control and you just don't know what to do. Whereas if you've taken this weekend to just sit down and think about it, plan it out roughly, kind of see what works for you in your household with your timings, it will really be beneficial as you go on.
Yeah. So first thing, plan, get your times. You get the calendar, and just, use the timings for morning and evening to plan your after you fast.
Yeah. And you can get all the timings online.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because a lot of people just do it by eye. Oh, it's dark now. But if you've got your set times, you know what time to eat fast, and then you just plan around that. And in Kenya, we're lucky. The times won't change much. We're equatorial. It's very marginal changes. Elsewhere, it changes quite a bit by day. So you just need to be changing your plan accordingly if you're away from the equator. So here, though, your plan will probably last you pretty much almost all the way through Ramadan, with maybe a minute here, minute there change.
I know, poor people in the UK. That's like an 18-hour fast. That's unfair.
No, it's a nightmare.
Okay. Here is another question. I don't know if we are equipped to answer this, but all right. Can one train after breaking fast and not have it interfere with the fast? The reasons being, if you are to train during Ramadan, the fatigue will make you lazy, and laziness isn't a good thing during this period.
What?
Well,
Yeah, because it is that suffering thing. It's not, you
yeah.
can't. The whole purpose of Ramadan is not to sit and sleep all day. So I suppose that's what they're saying as well.
Yeah.
Don't use it as an excuse to rest. Yeah, you can train, but the point is, it's probably not best to. If you're doing Ramadan for religious reasons, you should be following that. And then, but it doesn't mean you can't train. Just as we said, bear in mind recovery. Don't let it affect your rest of your day.
Yeah, 100%. Like if you are doing Ramadan, your training and nutrition might need to take the back seat, and that's okay. So maybe for you, if that's you, do something that's not going to fatigue you or affect any of the other reasons why you're doing Ramadan. Don't let it get in your way. But yeah, I think you choose when you can train and see and kind of see how you feel after a week or two. It's not like you're gonna, like I said, you can do 2 weeks on and then maybe take the last 2 weeks off as it gets harder, or you get more fatigued and tired. So as always, it depends on your goals, spiritual goals, religious goals, all of those. I think that's all of the questions, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. Well, I think we answered a lot of them just with our chat, but I think that's covered pretty much everything. What do you say?
Yeah, I just think it's for people doing Ramadan. It's that one time to just focus on something else other than training. So as much as you want to remain healthy and train hard, that one time you can just focus and put your mental strength, your all your beliefs, and just focus on something else. Take that time, enjoy that time also, and training will always be there. It's just a month where it's bringing families together, friends. You have your, I guess, suffering for a cause, being grateful for being alive, being able to have food every day, and just life.
Mm-hmm.
As much as we want to stay on our health goals, fitness goals, as much as we've answered those questions, and key thing is plan. Remember, Ramadan is your time to just be grateful and be unselfish, so to speak. So.
And it's important to remember it's a time to connect with family. And we've said this before. Embrace that time, because life is finite. Yes, follow your passions. If your passion's training every day, great, continue it. But use it a bit like I always say with Christmas. Generally, people who celebrate Ramadan don't celebrate over a Christmas period, and as such, that is an opportunity, like we have at Christmas, to celebrate being in a family and celebrating each other and enjoying time with each other. Same with friends. Reality is there's more to life sometimes than making sure you're training at the right time. Not everyone's going to be a professional bodybuilder. Not everyone's going to be a professional athlete. If that's not your goal, use it as a time to reconnect with family, friends, have a mental health break. You've got still body goals, just maintain and then hit them hard after when you're refreshed. Just do a bit of maintenance and come back all guns blazing, refreshed and full on.
Yeah, and maybe restrictions will be over then and your gyms will be open.
I know.
Yeah, exactly right.
True.
Yeah, so I would take well, this will be out on Sunday. I would take the rest of the Sunday. I mean, you're probably preparing anyway on Sunday for Ramadan in many different ways. So just take that time. If your goal is to maintain, your muscle mass, take that time to kind of just plan out your meals. Figure out your maintenance macros. First of all, you might have been in a deficit or a surplus.
Yeah.
Figure out your maintenance macros, get those down, and kind of just plan out briefly, sort of approximately, how you need to eat to achieve those goals. So like we said, when you break your fast, maybe a protein shake, because you're going to hydrate with that as well, which is key.
Yeah.
And then get in, a balanced meal with all your macronutrients. Yeah, still always focusing on your protein, and make them sort of, the healthier, more healthful versions of carbs and fats. Samosas and mandazis are not really nourishing for your body. I'm not saying don't have them, but they are not your priority.
I love a samosa. Mandazis are just pointless.
Yeah, I guess samosa's it's got protein in it.
Yeah. That's your
as long as it's not cooked in
10%.
transformer oil. Yeah. Maybe that's better. I don't know. Higher in omega-3s.
Yeah, mandazis are well,
but jokes aside,
true.
as always, those kind of things in moderation, you'll feel better for it.
Yeah.
I mean, your whole
exactly.
digestion system is going to be all over the place anyway, because you've changed things so much. So you don't want to give it any extra reason to be in turmoil. So go for a good quality whey isolate. I wouldn't get too caught up on casein or any other kind of sort of complicated protein structure. Go for a good quality whey isolate. And again, in the morning, get in another protein shake. Again, you'll hydrate. And just keep trying to hydrate before you go to bed. It's not like you're not drinking a whole gallon in one go. Space it out as well. And then definitely try and get in quite a bit before you start your fast for the day.
Yeah.
And I hope it is a good time for everybody. And I think it's my hats off to you all who do it. I've never fasted, so I don't know. I think for me, the food would be okay. For me, it's the drinking. I would struggle with the hydration part.
I think once I tested
the
waters 1 week.
1 week.
I can't.
I've not done it a week.
I'm trying to be I compete bodybuilding, so I'll take the. I'll say I'm competing, so I'll not fast. But
I've seen. Yeah. I've worked with many Muslim guys over the years, and people who do a sort of a version of Ramadan where they're having things like shakes and stuff, and they're like, well, it's a health reason, you're not meant to get sick from it, you're not meant to be ill, so I've got to have this, and you're like, well, all right, each their own. But I do think like the most sort of bang on extreme version, well, not extreme, but the spot on version is probably a very hard thing to manage. Even when I was in Somalia, I was in Mogadishu, and have kind of forced Ramadan on myself. Well, I didn't force it on me. It was kind of, people who bring us food only brought it at night. We literally may have been lucky to have a little bit of water during the day, but because they were observing Ramadan, so therefore by proxy we were, and we didn't really have a chance. So it is tough. And I remember I didn't do much during the day. I was sat around hiding, and at night ate samosas and mandazis.
Yeah.
Look at you now. Did you well?
Exactly. I'm glad. I'm glad I wasn't. I didn't even think about training. I had more pressing priorities in training at that moment. Yeah. So it was like, I was not so worried about it. So luckily, I didn't have to prioritize my training. But the reality is, don't beat yourself up over your training. A bit like everything. Do what you can.
Yep.
To the best of your ability you can. And just, your reality is your reality, really. If if your priority is Ramadan and your faith, then that is your priority. You don't have to, you're not Mr. Olympia. You're not trying to be Mr. Olympia. Accept your priorities in the order they are.
Yeah. It's just 4 weeks out of the whole year anyway.
Yeah. Listen to your body. You know, if those training sessions are becoming grim, don't do them. Mobility is a wonderful thing. I always think trying to keep in some form of movement is just good for you, good for your joints, good for your mental health. You know, so just
things like steps, keep steps in, low taxing exercise like steps, stretching, mobility, as Claire just said. You know, just keep active in some form.
And that's just wonderful in itself.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I think, wow, that is the end of season 4. When did we start season 4? We started recording it was December with Sheena, I think. We pre-recorded.
Oh yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, wow. We're in April. Season 4, well, that is a benchmark.
Yeah.
And yes, we will be brainstorming for season 5, and seeing Andy will be seeing whose DMs he can slide into. We'll see.
Get to stalk
some bodybuilders for us.
Exactly.
Nutritionists.
Well, I did put that question box up, didn't I? Who do you want to see on the? Who would you like to listen to or see on a podcast? I had one answer. It was some random guy said me. I was like, right, why? So I was like,
all right.
Yeah. So if you have any ideas, you listen to this and you've got any ideas, just leave a comment, and let us know.
Yeah, we'll see if Andy will see if he can get them for us. But yes, anybody, anyone in fitness, nutrition, space, so send us your ideas, topics, and we will be busy brainstorming too. But thank you.
Plus, any guests you like that we've had on before that you want us to get back, also let us know.
Oh, I'd love to get, who would we love? Gabrielle, Victoria.
Yeah,
Gabrielle's great. She's always good.
Yeah, we had a lot to discuss with her. We're not done yet.
We're not done yet. Well, even Victoria. I mean, we just scratched.
I was going to say, Victoria was a massive topic. We just scratched the surface, really.
We didn't even get into like PCOS and actually more about the pill.
No, yeah.
And
to discuss with her,
but it still feels a bit surreal that they were on the podcast, because I look at the podcasts that they're kind of on, like Gabrielle was just on Biolane's podcast. I was like, wow, you were on our little podcast. East Africa's top podcast.
Yeah. East and Southern.
Well, the thing is, like I keep seeing people posting about female menstrual cycle and training. I always say, to be fair, there is only one true expert, because no one's done the study like Victoria's doing now, linking training to menstrual cycle. There's a lot of misinformation that we learned from her that, trying to structure training around your cycle is almost impossible. Yeah, to do it like have a one thing fits all approach. It doesn't work like that. So she is like literally the only person who's ever studied it.
Yeah.
So, if you want to know about it, hit that episode up.
Yeah, no, that was such a good one. And I know she's been so busy.
We'll
recently, but because it is such an important topic. And I mean, all of our clients track their cycles. Nobody is the same. Nope. Nobody at all. I mean, this is going totally off topic of Ramadan, but
I know.
Well, ladies, actually, it would be interesting to track your cycle during Ramadan and see if anything does change. You might find, because so many things can affect the cycle. So I think if it does become a bit irregular, I wouldn't worry about that at all. I'm sure like once you're done, things will get back to your normal. So that's actually very interesting. Please do track your cycles and let us know.
Yeah, there we go. Another topic to discuss with her.
Yeah. But yes, please do. If you
I think I'll try and get Scott on. Victoria's partner, Scott Neely, who's got Think Big Media, because about how he has quite a few different podcasts on his YouTube channel. Be interesting to see about fitness and the media and how to build sort of he's got Advices Radio and Think Big Media. See how she offered him up last time on the call, so I think I'll hit her up for his contact.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, well, before we go even more off topic, we will leave this here. Thank you to everybody who listens and supports us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, keep liking, sharing, reviewing, commenting.
And we'll see you, and you will hear us in season 5.
Yep.
Ooh. 5.